Stringer's head-spinning announcement in a moment. First, Craig Crawford, who blogs about politics on his website, craigcrawford.com, and is the author of The Politics of Life, joins us again. Good evening.
The weekend debt.
Do we have a gauge yet on exactly how much blowback there is from Democrats? I mean, White House and Engel and Pelosi pretty solid about Medicare and Social Security, and if necessary, the whole deal. But do we have a number on how many Democrats in either house are rebelling?
I'd say maybe no more than a quarter, perhaps, but the nose counting really hasn't gotten underway in a big way. A lot of them are so stunned by this, they're wondering, is the White House, is the president even serious about this? It was such a shock to them, although we've been hearing in private they've been making these offers to the Republicans, but it really looks like the president is, giving the bully his lunch money before he's even been asked for it, and hadn't really worked this out with Democrats. They were as surprised as anyone.
And to that point, there's been a lot of speculation that the president is playing some kind of three-dimensional chess, as he's been known to in the past, perhaps to get the Republicans into the position where they have to compromise in order to get any deal, where they become the hostages in the last week or two. Paul Krugman essentially wrote today that it's either that or the president has economically become a Republican. Is there any evidence of triangulation, or is this wishful thinking still?
I wish this debate were all about policy. That might be good for the country, but to be cynical, which I define as a broken-hearted idealist, I think there's a lot of politics going on, and much of what we're seeing is posturing for the 2012 campaign. The Republicans beating their breast to be the crusaders against tax increases, and the president looking to be portrayed as a deficit hawk to appeal to the independent voters and to undercut the Republican argument that he's a pro-government, big spending socialist.
What about the Senate? I mean, we know already the GOP can do what it wants to in the House. Doesn't need one Democratic vote to do this. What about the Senate relative to Social Security, relative to Medicare?
You might get some more Democrats on board. You've got senators like from Virginia, Mark Warner, others out Midwest who want to talk about entitlement reforms. But one thing about this entitlement reform debate, Keith, is they're talking 10 years down the road. It's always easy for presidents to talk about things that reach closure after they're gone. Sure. It's kind of like saying your children will pay off your debts, and which I guess is what we're going to do nationwide. But nevertheless, I think the president might be a kind of a straw man, and Republicans might not buy it because they know this might not actually happen in the long run.
The jobs numbers for June barely moved the needle. To what degree does that impact the talks at this critical stage here, and does it favor either side in particular? That is, assuming we know what each side wants in particular at this point.
Well, you're going to hear the Republicans say, oh, this is why we got to keep these taxes low and not raise these taxes on the wealthy because they're the job creators. You look around at some of the states, Keith, like Florida. They've had a Republican governor and state legislature for more than a dozen years. They've got one of the lowest tax rates on individuals and business anywhere. And their unemployment numbers are higher than the federal. They're at over 10%. So there's not a lot of evidence as you look around the laboratories of the states that argument washes. Is
the argument on that the Republicans keep hammering home that because of the level of unemployment, a tax, as they put it, increase is madness? Is that somehow authenticated by those jobs numbers today, or are they irrelevant to that part of the equation?
I don't see the relevancy of the debt ceiling debate to the tax, to the unemployment in the short run. They keep making that argument, but we get a different argument every day. And in some ways, Keith, this whole debt ceiling debate's kind of phony to me. I mean, it's always been done in the past. It's not the real basic debate going on about the budget. And I don't know why they can't just put it on autopilot, raising the ceiling, the way they put their own salaries on autopilot. They don't seem to mind doing that.
The author of The Politics of Life, Craig Crawford. Thank you, Craig. Have a good weekend in debt.
You bet. You too.